Hey there, the Range Ronin here, and I want to start this review off by saying that the battle to decide a new EDC was mind-racking. Logic had to be applied, and that, in most cases, hurts my brain. Lately, I have been carrying the Glock G48 as my EDC. As most of you know, the Glock G48 is a single-stack 9mm striker-fired pistol and has a 10-round capacity. I will say that I like the Glock G19 and Glock G17, but I like the Glock G45 even more, which is essentially a G19 slide on a G17 frame, and which has a nice capacity of 17 plus 1 rounds and a grip that really fits my hand. I also like the Springfield Armory XDM line of pistols and have them in 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, and 10mm. I also have a couple of XDS pistols, one in 9mm and one in 45 ACP. Saying that, I also have the Springfield Armory XDE, an external hammer version in 9mm that was discontinued. But then, all of the Springfield Armory pistols that I own have been discontinued. So, where does the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro fit into the picture? Today, fortunately, when trying to find a firearm that has the right balance of size, capacity, and fires an adequate defense cartridge is not hard to find. There are many available from which to choose. Two such competitors in the marketplace are the Sauer P365XL and the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, and both of them are often compared to the Glock G19. Now, leading up to the Sauer P365XL and the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro was the Sauer P365 and the Springfield Armory Hellcat, both of which are of the pocket pistol persuasion, and both of which are very popular. My decision to upgrade my primary carry, the Glock G48, to a Sauer P365XL, or with the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, was out of curiosity more than anything. I could have easily switched to my CZ75 Compact or CZ75 PCR, which hold 15 plus 1 rounds, and are excellent compact pistols in their own right. But I did not want to subject these two pistols to the everyday rigors of concealed carry. In short, I have any number of pistols and several revolvers that I could have switched to, but the desire to have something different, for me, was just too strong and a decision had to be made. A Sauer P365XL or the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, but not both. So let's find out about the winner of this desire, the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro. Now, I don't know if I qualify as a pro, since I don't get paid to generate these reviews, but I think that I am professional enough to provide you with an unbiased review and my opinions, which could still be construed as biased by some. I'm going to start out by saying that I don't like things hanging on my pistols. Lights, lasers, and optics are not in my vocabulary for a handgun that would be used for self-defense. I am old school, and I fully admit that. The fact that both the Sauer P365XL or the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro have optic capabilities mean nothing to me. Accessory rails are not optional on either pistol. They are just something that I have to put up with. I will say that the accessory rails on both pistols have been integrated well into the pistol's design, and with these two pistols, I really don't pay attention to them, as I do not find them distracting. Well, I wish that I could have purchased both the Sauer P365XL and the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro, but only one could be the winner, and that one was the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro. There will be a lot of you that would have chosen the Sauer P365XL, and I certainly would not fault you for doing so. It is an excellent pistol, and I do have an affinity towards Sauer pistols. I have handled and shot the Sig Sauer P365XL, and I liked what I felt. However, the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro just had some features that I liked more and preferred over the Sig Sauer P365XL. So first, let's take a gander at the basic specifications, and then I'll dig into the features. The caliber, of course, is 9mm. The color is black. There is also a Desert FDE version. It has a 3.7-inch hammer-forged steel barrel with a melanite finish and a 1 in 10 right-hand twist rate. It has a billet machine slide that is melanite finished and optics ready. The frame is black polymer with an adaptive grip texture. More on that later. The front sight is tritium luminescent with a tactical rack U-notch rear sight. The recoil system is comprised of a dual captive recoil spring with a full-length guide rod. The grip width is a slim 1 inch that holds a single 15-round magazine. 2 15-round magazines are provided with the pistol. The weight is a mere 21 ounces, unloaded. It has a total length of 6.6 inches and a total height of 4.8 inches, which means nothing unless you have something to compare it to, and which you will have later. The MSRP at the time of this presentation is $649 US. Let me mention the grip, or rather, the adaptive grip texturing first, as it is a key feature of the pistol. The adaptive grip texturing is actually a pressure-activated design. The first layer is smooth when you run your hands over it, yet when you grip the adaptive grip texturing tightly, it's been designed to lock into your hand so that it won't move. The grip angle is very like the CZ75, of which I have had my hand around a number of times. I became very familiar with the grip of the Hellcat Pro in a very short time. The grip length is close to the Glock G19, but the grip width is much thinner. With the Glock G48, I had to add a slip-on grip, but with the Hellcat Pro, my hand didn't feel it needed an additional grip girth. The reach to the trigger is approximately 2 3/4 inches at full forward after cocking, and the trigger guard is undercut at the rear, which allows more of the hand to hold the grip as high as possible to decrease the bore-to-hand distance, and which helps to decrease muzzle flip. The grip, of course, houses the stainless steel 15-round magazine, and that, of course, means that there must be a way to lock magazines into place and release them when needed. The reversible magazine button does just that, and very well, by the way. Initially located on the left side of the grip, the magazine latch assembly can be mounted for left-handed operation. The magazine release button, as it is called, is oval in shape and textured to ensure positive engagement. By the way, the pistol will fire with the magazine removed. Additionally, there is a small textured ledge above the magazine release upon which you can rest the thumb of the shooting hand. If you decide to swap the magazine release to the right side position, texturing is there as well. The two provided 15-round stainless steel magazines are of the usual Springfield Armory excellence. They inserted into and extracted from the pistol with no problem. The magazines can also be disassembled for cleaning. The base of the magazines, when inserted into the pistol, is definitely flush with the bottom of the grip, and is virtually undetectable when inserted fully into the grip. If a magazine were jammed into the pistol, for whatever reason, you would find it difficult to remove, as there is no ledge or means to grab the magazine. It might take a thumbnail between the magazine base and the grip to free it. Under normal conditions, however, these magazines work wonderfully. I ordered 2 additional magazines, just because I like to have at least 4 magazines for each of my pistols. Magazines for the Hellcat Pro run around $40. While I could fit 15 rounds in the magazines, an Uplula loader made things easier, but not that easy. The last few rounds take a bit of effort. The grip is fully textured and squared off more than the G48 and G45, but I find it excellent, as my first and second joint just wraps around the corners nicely. I don't feel the need to add a grip sleeve onto this grip at all. The harder I grip, the better it feels. Just above the grip is the serrated slide stop lever that seems to do its job well in locking the slide back on the last round removed from the magazine. The slide lock is substantial to move up and down with the thumb of either hand. Because of the pistol's size, I can better engage the slide stop lever with the thumb of my support hand. Using the thumb of my shooting hand causes me to shift my grip. The slide stop lever is not ambidextrous, by the way. Rolling into the trigger, you will see that it is like most other striker-fired pistols these days, with an integral trigger safety centered within the trigger to prevent the trigger from moving to the rear unless the trigger safety is fully pressed. The trigger safety blocks the trigger from moving backward. A lever incorporated into the trigger deactivates the safety when completely pressed while pulling the trigger. The trigger can only be pulled if pressed together with the trigger safety lever. A striker block safety, which is internal, is designed to prevent the firearm from firing unless the trigger is pressed. Backing up just a bit, you may have noticed that there is no grip safety on this pistol. I never gave a grip safety second notice, as I am used to having one on a 1911, and one is also present on my Springfield Armory XD and XDM pistols. Just above the trigger guard is the disassembly lever. The disassembly lever works as most disassembly levers do. Rotate down to release the slide, and while holding the slide, hold the trigger with the firearm pointed in a safe direction to fully unlock the slide from the frame. When assembling the pistol, the trigger must be to the rear. The slide is assembled to the frame, locked into place, and then the disassembly lever is rotated upward to lock everything into place. Just above the front of the trigger guard is a small textured piece of property for those who want to rest the thumb against the frame. Just forward of the trigger guard is the accessory rail, or as Springfield Armory calls it, a light rail. This rail is well integrated and relatively unobtrusive. 2 mounting points are provided for mounting lights or lasers. At the muzzle end, you will find a textured full-length guide rod that is captivated. The texturing is more than just for aesthetics. The slightly extended guide rod serves to prevent the slide from moving out of battery when the pistol is pressed against a hard object. But does it work? Pressing the muzzle against various body parts, with an unloaded firearm of course, I attempted to force it out of battery. On certain parts of the body, like the palm of the hand, I was able to force the slide out of battery because the hand would naturally give and hit against the muzzle. If I pressed only the guide rod against a hard surface, I could not force an out-of-battery condition. My synopsis is, don't expect it to work as advertised. The nicely crowned muzzle of the 3.7-inch hammer-forged steel barrel protects the muzzle from damage. Above the muzzle, on the slide, is a beveled front and a tritium sight that is surrounded by a luminescent ring that really, for me, makes that front sight highly visible in almost any lighting. Front serrations are present and allow for press checking or for moving the slide fully to the rear. I found them adequate, but not quite deep enough for my liking. Moving forward on the slide, we come across the Springfield Armory logo and onto the chamber end of the barrel that has a witness hole, the loaded chamber indicator, for determining if a cartridge is chambered or not. Moving more to the rear, we find the OSP cover plate. This is found on OSP models only. That is used for mounting an optic. For me, it will never be used, but it is there should I change my mind. The serrations on the mount match up to the rear slide serrations for a nice aesthetic touch. An internal extractor is followed by rear serrations that, like the front serrations, I find too smooth. It takes quite a bit of grip strength to pull the slide to the rear using the front or rear serrations. Some with weak hand strength, or those who are operating it with wet hands, may find some difficulty racking the slide. A tactical rack U-notch rear sight adorns the rear of the slide. Some dislike the U-notch type of sight, but I have not had any issues with it. In fact, I rather like it over a square-notch rear sight, outlined, dotted, or blank. As far as markings on the pistol, they are abundant. The left side of the slide is marked with Hellcat Pro, while the dust cover is marked with the country of origin, Croatia. Also on the left side, but on the lower grip, SI Genocid IL is seen. I hope I pronounced genocide right. On the right side of the pistol, you will find the serial number and caliber stamped into the chamber of the barrel and the serial number just forward of that on the slide. Above the trigger guard, you will find Springfield Armory on the frame and, as mentioned, the Springfield Armory logo on top of the slide. As was mentioned earlier, the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro would be mostly compared to the Glock G19 and Sig Sauer P365 XL. I was more interested in how it stacked up, and if it would stack up, to the G45 and G48, both of which are my more common carry these days. With regard to the Glock G45, the grip length of the Hellcat Pro is obviously the shorter of the two, and loses 2 rounds in the comparison. The grip length is more comparable to the G19. The grip width of the Hellcat Pro is 1 inch as compared to the 1.34 inch of the Glock G45, and virtually identical to the G48, with only a difference of 0.1 inch in favor of the Hellcat Pro, but yet it stores 15 rounds in lieu of the 10-round G48 with factory mag. The overall height of the Hellcat Pro is less than the Glock G48 and G45, with 4.8 inches as compared to the 5.04 inches of the G48 and the 5.47 inches of the G45. The barrel length, of course, differs between the three. The 4.02-inch barrel of the G45 is actually shorter than the 4.17-inch barrel of the G48, and both the barrel of the G45 and G48 are longer than the 3.17-inch barrel of the Hellcat Pro. Whether tucked into a holster or pointed at a target, the minor variances in barrel lengths are not going to make a significant difference in velocity of the chosen ammunition. Another thing is weight, and the Hellcat Pro is, of course, lighter than the Glock G45, 21 ounces on the Hellcat Pro, as compared to 24.48 ounces of the G45, with empty magazines. As expected, with 5 additional rounds to the G48, the weight of the Hellcat Pro is about 1 ounce heavier. Now, while the Sig Sauer P365 XL is a fine pistol, I gained 3 more rounds with the Hellcat Pro, 15 versus 12, with only a slightly thicker and longer grip. So far, the Hellcat Pro is winning me over. The last thing to mention is the melanite finish on both the barrel and the slidey part, with the finish being both inside and outside of the slidey part. Alright, I think we're ready to move on to the maintenance segment. biggest question for the range day was how accurate would the Hellcat Pro be in my hands at a combat distance of 7 yards. I really needed to evaluate it on its own accord, and not with how well or poorly I shoot it, as compared to the Glock G48 and G45. The tritium luminescent front sight on the Hellcat Pro is very familiar to me, as a similar front sight is on my Glock G48. The rear sight notch, however, is different, but it did not take me long to get used to it. With the Glock G48, I needed to add a slip-on grip, but the grip texture on the Hellcat Pro feels very good in the hand, and the finger grooves are subtle, but effective for my fingers to get a good position on the grip, while the undercut at the trigger guard helped me get as high of a hold as possible. The Hellcat Pro is very reminiscent of my XDS pistols before they became XDS Mod 2s, sans the grip safety and capacity. To me, the Hellcat Pro is just a different rendition of them, but with a larger capacity. My prime concern was the trigger. I have viewed other reviews that claim that the Hellcat Pro had a heavy trigger. The trigger pull travel is typical Springfield Arms XDM, somewhat long, but I actually like that, especially if I have to back off the trigger when pulling. The trigger of the Hellcat Pro serves two purposes actually. Pulling the trigger completes the cocking cycle until the striker releases, unlike the Glock, whose sole purpose is to simply release the striker. There is a hint of pre-play when pulling the trigger until you feel slight resistance. Then, there is a brief hard wall that you come up against. Pulling through that wall renders a very crisp break, with no over travel. The reset is long, and there is a definite tactile feel when it resets. There are many who cavil over a trigger, but this is not a race gun. The trigger pull weight on my Hellcat Pro came in at 7 pounds, 0.2 ounces, with a 5-pull average, and feels very similar to my other Springfield Armory pistols. I suspect that after some range time, the trigger will settle in, and I will settle in with the trigger. Recoil impulse is mild and muzzle flip is sharp, as expected with the 9mm cartridge, but it is easily manageable, and it is very easy to get back on target. I am not the fastest shot, as I am as deliberate with my shots as I can be. Today, I was running some Magtech 115 grain FMJ, some Fiocchi 147 grain FMJ, a few Remington 124 grain FMJs, and for defensive purposes, Sig Sauer Elite Performance 147 grain jacketed hollow point. Since the Hellcat Pro is about the same size in the slide area as the Glock G48, I was interested to see if I did not have to purchase a separate holster for the Hellcat Pro. Surprisingly, the Gelco Classic Light 2.0 shoulder system for my Glock G48 also can house the Hellcat Pro, like it was made for it. The Hellcat Pro magazines also fit the magazine carriers perfectly. Although the slide height of the Hellcat Pro is slightly taller than the G48, the overall height of both is about the same at the end that inserts into a holster, and the overall slide width is slightly thinner than the G48, so everything kind of evens out. A hip holster was a different thing though. An Alien Gear Cloak Tuck 3.5 was purchased for the Hellcat Pro for those times that I want to carry strong side or cross draw IWB. Okay, let's see if I can summarize all of this. I decided to summarize the Hellcat Pro using a star rating system, with 5 stars being the best and 1 star ranking very low on the scale. Please keep in mind that these ratings are from my short experience with the Hellcat Pro, my handling, carrying, and shooting of it. Others may disagree with my assessment, and that's fine. Opinions vary according to one's experience with a firearm. So, let's begin with style and appearance. The Hellcat Pro is a very good looking pistol. The design is well executed. It fits the hand well, has an excellent beaver tail to protect the hand from slide bite. All controls are well placed, and it has an overall business look to it. What I would like to see is a version without the rail, with a nicely rounded shroud. That squared off section of front end used to hang stuff just does not appeal to me. With that said, I won't subtract anything from the score, since that is a personal thing. The texturing at strategic places adds to the styling rather than distracting from it. I give style and appearance a 5-star rating, which is based on what I am seeing in the marketplace today in conjunction with my eyeballs on the Hellcat Pro. There is really not much that you can customize on the Hellcat Pro, in my opinion, aside from mounting a desired optic on top and light laser or light laser combination on the bottom. Since the Hellcat Pro has adequate provisions to do so, I must give it a 5-star rating. Reliability. The Hellcat Pro ran through everything that I fed it. All magazines worked well with it, and there were no FTFs, FTEs, or other malady happening during the short range time that I spent with it for this review. I must also give reliability a 5-star rating. The Hellcat Pro is an inherently accurate pistol. Accuracy is an objective thing. One person may be accurate shooting it, while another will have problems with accuracy due to any number of factors. With my first day at the range with it, I do believe that with more practice, I will become more proficient with it. After all, the Hellcat Pro was only doing what I knowingly or unknowingly told it to do. As a defensive pistol, I will give it a 5-star rating. I am thoroughly pleased with the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro. It meets my expectations of what a good defensive pistol should be. It is light, compact, holds enough ammunition in the pistol and in reserve to be viable in most situations that I might run up against. With the Hellcat Pro, I do not need to add anything to the grip to make it better fit my hand. The grip is just fine as it is in angle, length, width, and texture. The Hellcat Pro is small enough to hide away in a good IWB or shoulder holster, but can yield enough firepower when needed. The capacity is greater than comparable pistols such as the Glock G48 and Sauer P365 XL. It is very satisfying to carry, hold, and shoot, with nary a whimper from either of us. You might recall that I had asked the question, will the Hellcat Pro replace my Glock G48 and G45 as an everyday carry earlier in the presentation? Well, I can now answer that question. Yes, it will. The Hellcat Pro gets an overall 5-star rating. Well, that's it for this review. I thank you for staying with me. As long as I can bring them to you, more gun and gear reviews are yet to come. Until the next time, be safe out there.